Hi, y'all. We're going to talk about how to build a sustainable business from day one with 3 easy maps. I know it sounds so not exciting and not sexy, but it's actually kind of fun, and I'm going to make it that way. And it's really, really, really going to make the difference between having a business that's going to last for a month or 100 months, 1,000 months. Like, this is the difference it's going to make in how happy you are with your business. And it's really some simple things to just think about and start implementing from day one. Now, the biggest mistake new business owners tend to make when they're starting their business, specifically photographers, because photography is awesome. It's also a really easy entry point. Camera, person who needs photos, pretty photo. And what usually happens, and the biggest mistake people make, is by just diving in. They figure, I've got the thing, I can just do the thing. Not realizing that's exactly what sets you up to not make it to the finish line. So, in this talk, we're going to talk about this number one thing to consider when you're building your photography, and it's to think long term. Think, how can I sustain this business and build a business based on the long run? One of the things I hear so often from people who are starting photography businesses, yeah, you have a bigger business. Of course, you need to do A, B, and C. Or I'm not there yet. Or I don't have the clients yet. It's the old adage, if you build it, they will come. So we're going to get started. I'm Andreka from Andreka Photography and Coaching, and I'm here again, like I am every Tuesday, to chat and talk about all things photography and all things business. So often, us photographers want to focus on the photos. It's the fun part. Although once you get into the business, it's kind of fun too. So, we want to focus on those fun parts, but we forget about the business. And that's, my friends, why I am here. Because I want to make sure that you know and understand all the little nuances when it comes to running a photography businesses. And that is exactly what's going to set apart a professional photographer from a hobbyist. So before I begin chatting about this super unfun sounding, systematic foundations, longevity, sustainability, all these words that are so not exciting, I have a little disclaimer. I don't want all this talk to be to stop people from taking the leap. There's a saying that goes out oftentimes, and it's called progress over perfection. In other words, you don't want to wait until everything is perfect before you launch your business. And while these things I'm about to say, I don't want it to be your excuse to stop from launching. It's one of the things that stops most businesses from ever taking off the ground, is this idea that it has to be perfect. And I think there's a lot of stuff involved in just your personality. If you're dealing, especially when you're starting off, most of your clients are going to be somehow related to who you are. They're going to have a little leeway. And if you're honest and authentic about it, it's okay. So my little disclaimer is, don't let these 3 maps I'm about to show you stop you from making the big leap. Okay, whatever it might be, if it's a new business, if it's a new offering, if it's a launch, if it's an idea, whatever it might be, it will grow like all babies in the wild. But you got to be a little smart about it, and that's where these roadmaps that you put into place at the very beginning are going to help. I am about to launch a new offering in the next few weeks, and it is 100% not ready. It's not perfect. I know what it is. I have got the basis and the foundations built, but there's a lot of question marks that aren't going to be able to be answered until someone actually comes and starts booking this thing, right? So this is the moment where, when you have these maps, it makes it a little easier, maps, systems, to push past that. I like to call it perfection procrastination syndrome. Because when you put it out there, like I have a launch date on my calendar, and if you just put it out there, it makes you do the thing. So that's my full disclosure. Don't let this stop you, but also don't just leap without a net. Have a little net there to catch you just in case. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So you're going to hear me a ton talk about systems. It's all about having systems in place. Systems are this is where I'm going to talk about roadmaps. Systems and businesses are like a map. And a map does 2 different things. One directs you where you want to go, right? So you start to think long term. You're not just walking out the door with a camera. You're thinking, okay, what do I want my business to look like in 5-10 years, right? Which, of course, maps change, directions change, but it keeps you going in a general direction. So that's what a map does. It shows you how to get to where you want to go and puts a pinpoint on the map. And it also keeps you going in the right direction when you start to get lost. A map stops you from getting lost. There's a few different types of maps to keep in place when you start your business. So before I go too deep, I'm going to tell you a little story. This is one that when I first read this business book years and years and years ago, it was probably one of my first business books I ever read. The story always stuck with me. And it was a story about a woman who opened a bakery in a fairly nice town, city. And it was super successful. The quality was amazing. The look was amazing. It was awesome. And it opened to really great success. She had lines out the door and she was growing exponentially. I bet you can kind of guess where this might be going. She was even keeping up with most of the stuff, right? But then within a year, she had to close her doors and her business went under. And do you know what happened? She had focused so much at the beginning at just what was in front of her and keeping up that in the product that she didn't have the business foundation, that with every passing day in her mind, she thought she was actually growing, right? And building this stronger business. But in fact, with every step forward she took, the ground underneath her shook and her stability was going and she couldn't even see what was right in front of her eyes until all of a sudden she realized, oh shit, I can't keep up. I don't have the supplies. I don't have the money in place. Ooh. And so therefore the business went under. Another kind of good analogy is the idea of living paycheck to paycheck. Seems like a great, and you can keep up with that for a while, but there's no growth that can happen there. Eventually, if you hit any bump in the road, it's going to take you off tracks and potentially close your doors. The small things we're going to focus on today, we're going to keep you on track for the long haul, and it's going to help you just get an idea and more feel for your business as well. And whether or not you're starting your business today or whether you started it 20, 15 years ago, these are still roadmaps to just double check. If maybe you started them years ago and they're not quite, you forgot about them. Let this be your reminder to go back and check them out. So let's talk about these three maps. Map number one, who are you? Now, why does this need a map? Because when you are out in the world of business, you see a lot of different ideas and a lot of fun things you want to start to do or implement. Without this map that's focused on who you are, you could get dragged out into so many different directions that you get lost. Again, the map bringing you back to where you are. And even more so, your clients can also get lost. So what I'm talking about here is defining your niche and your brand. Niche means kind of what you focus on, right? There's a lot of talk about what your niche is, niche down, niche down, niche down. So what you want to do is you want to figure out what kind of photography you want to do, what area you want to be in, and when you have this idea, and we hear tell people talk about your niche and your brand oftentimes, but here we're talking about it, using it as a map, using it as a filter. So you want to keep this idea of who you are so you don't become a jack of all trade, master of none. So the first you want to figure out who you are, what your brand is based on what you love and what you're good at. Then once you have this decisions made, you can then make any other decisions through this lens that's your brand. So if you get told something to, I don't know, buy this product or use this album, look at your brand and go, does it match? Does it match what I'm trying to do, right? It kind of brings you back to who you are every time. So the map brings you back. Here's an example. My brand is pretty much fun and relaxed, right? So if I see an opportunity to do something, even if it sounds super awesome, but it's kind of serious and uptight or not my ideal clientele, it's not really my brand. So I'm going to think twice about doing it, right? Maybe it's something I want to do just for the experience, but I'm going to know that, right? But I'm also going to go, okay, let's be realistic about this. This might just be a one-off. Or do I even want to put my name on this if it doesn't match my brand? This is how it's a map, because it gives you a lens or filter to help you keep in the right direction and make decisions based on make the decisions you're faced on a daily basis and help them keep you on track. Side note, you want to do this type of brand identity. Brand identity is the idea of what your brand looks like, whether it's your colors and your tone of voice. You want to figure all this stuff out before you start throwing everything up on your social medias and doing websites, because you want everything to look the same. So it's kind of one of the very first things you should do. Now again, going back to that progress over perfection, It doesn't have to be perfect. You're probably going to change it over the years, but it should have something cohesive. Okay, that's map number one. Map number two, how are you going to get things done? How are you going to do stuff, right? Like, oh, shoot, okay, I have a client now. How am I going to send them an invoice? How am I going to collect their money? How am I going to email them? How am I going to connect with them? How am I going to organize my photo shoots? How am I going to edit things? There's so many different aspects to your business that if you don't have a system in place before you start, you're going to start dropping all the balls. So efficiency is key. It is best to create efficient systems before you have all the clients and none of the time. Because once you have the clients and the money, you won't have the time to get all the things done, and you're going to become overwhelmed and potentially lose the clients. Do what happened to that other girl, and your doors are going to shut. So the trick is to create streamlined workflows. You want to streamline your business processes and all your workflows in order to maximize the efficiency, the productivity, the way it's going to get, because this is also going to lead so you do not get burned out. And again, longevity. If you get burned out early on, there's no way you're going to have the drive to connect and stay with your business for the long run. The best way to do this is to find what they call project management tools. In other words, they're basically like the virtual sticky notes. Everything's there in one place, and it's going to help you keep track of everything you're trying to do. Now, if that works for you, great. Use a system that works for you. I personally like a system called ClickUp. It's my favorite, but there's also a system called Trello and Asana. These all keep track and categorize the different hats you wear in your business. When you're a photographer, people assume you're just the person with the camera, but we all know being a photographer and running a business means you wear a lot of hats. Whether it's marketing, social media, the actual photography, the post-production, the communication, and having a system like this keeps you on track so you don't start losing and dropping balls. Secondary, but also just as important as far as a streamlined workflow comes in, you want to have a place where you can do online booking and payment system. This is going to simplify your booking process for you and your clients. It's going to keep everything in place for you to go back and look at over and over again. And it's going to help you automate repetitive tasks like emails and client reminders and photo delivery. And it's just going to help you save time and be efficient and help you not lose track of things. And again, when you're on that roadmap and all of a sudden squirrel, and you're like, no, go back to my to-do list. What do I have to do today? I know for me, the day after a photo shoot, if I'm in my photography hat and I'm shooting for 10 hours, the next day I kind of wake up in a daze and go, wait, what do I have to do now? This helps you. And you have to have this before you start getting overwhelmed with all of the clients and all the success your business is having. A few of the programs I like for this are Dubsado, ShootQ. There's also other ones like Honeybook and Tave. You can always message me and I'll share everything you know. And this can get a little fancy. It's good to have in mind, but not necessarily completely in place yet and rolled out. But from day one, think about when and where and how you're going to start doing automations. Because when it comes to emails and sales and proposals, you want to be able to have this automated because you want to be able to respond right away. You want to have this somewhere on your map along the journey, but it's not necessarily something you have to have at the laying of the foundation, because this is something that you're not going to need with your first initial clients. In fact, you probably don't want them with your first initial clients because you want to understand how you're talking to them and you want them to feel that really, really personal connection. These systems, these automated aspects will grow naturally as your business does, especially if you have this pinpoint on your roadmap to talk about and think about and test out as you start growing. Now, map number 3. This map is for your customers. Where will they go? So it's not always about you. Just as you need to know where you are going, you also need to know and understand where you are taking your clients. The minute your potential client feels lost, they will look elsewhere. And that is the last thing that you really want. Remember the old saying, you can't redo a first impression, and that first impression is everything. So you really want to create an amazing customer service experience. And this is going to begin with you knowing and understanding and having a system and a path and a journey for where the client is going to go. From the minute they find you on your website or social media, make it easy for them to inquire. Communicate. You want to make sure they know exactly how to get a hold of you through your website. And then the minute that email comes to you, you have an instant notification that you can respond so that they know the communication has gone through. You want to have it easy for them to figure out and know how to book, especially booking, because if they all of a sudden can't book you, they're not going to book you. Book, pay, have it all in the system. You even want to look in putting this system and this map in place past that booking process into the image delivery aspect and even into the future, into how you're going to communicate with them later on. Again, your maps, these maps I'm talking about, aren't necessarily going to have every single pinpoint on them now, but they're going to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And as your business grows, you're going to find different places to put on the map. But the great thing is you're already going to have a little foundation to put them on, and you're not just staring at a blank map, if you will. There's a few things to remember when we're thinking about your customer's map and system. One, not every client's going to think the same way, and they all don't think like you. So you want to have several paths to get them to you, whether it's your website, your social media, your word of mouth. You want to make sure they know. You want to have not only just a form on your website, but links to your email, so that if they see your email, they can click it, and that's an easy way, because some people don't like forms because they know they're going to end up on an email list. So they might just prefer emailing you directly. And if they can't find that, they're going to look somewhere else. You want to keep people easily engaged with you and finding you. Also, always, always, always respond quickly to inquiries. They say that if you are the first to inquire or first to respond to an inquiry, because most of the time if someone's inquiring with you, they're inquiring to more than one person. And if you are the first, your chance of booking them goes up almost 40%. So make sure you have a system in place that you see every email the minute it comes through. Even if you don't have the time, you know it's there, and you know you got to put it on your to-do list, or you can send a quick auto response, something like that. Ultimately, you want to have an easy system in place that helps you communicate and gather all the information. This is going to help you have a faster response time, and it's amazing how something so little as responding right away can go a long way. I'm constantly surprised how many of my clients are like, wow, thanks for the fast response. People just want to be heard, and they want to move on. If they're sitting in front of their computer sending you an email, it means they're in planning mode, they're in photo booking mode. You want to get them while they're in their mode before they move on to something else. So even if you're not available, even if this means you set up an email office hours on a daily basis, or have an autoresponder explaining when you will respond, just make sure you don't leave them hanging. I pretty much have a rule that I never, ever, ever let an email go unanswered for more than 24 hours. Even with me living in a different country 12 hours away, I always respond. Even if the response is just, hey, thanks, I got your email, I'm busy, I'm on the road, I'm in a meeting, whatever it is. They know it's coming. So one map, one system I didn't talk about that is an obvious one when it comes to your business is surrounding the idea of the online presence. In other words, your website, your social medias, your SEO. And there's a reason. Some would say this topic is actually number one and one of the first things you should do, but not necessarily. I think it really depends on where your clients are coming from. And for me and for most people, I think most viable clients are going to be coming from your already existing network and your referrals from other vendors. So I didn't want to put too much time and energy on the idea of social media, because to be honest, we already do that. And it's one of those things that can drag you apart and be a distraction from all the other stuff. So yes, it's great. You should definitely have your social media and your website out there. But instead of sitting there spending so much time stressing, again, progress over perfection, stressing over building a multi-page website that has every single thing on it and posting reels on a daily basis, that's not where your people are coming from. Then this aspect will grow naturally over time as your reputation does. So start it slow. Have a simple website. Take some people there. Focus on the other maps we talked about first. Do your social media, but you're already kind of on it most likely naturally. Plus, a lot of the stuff, yes, you get to a certain point and you can pay for ads and you can pay for SEO and you can do the strategizing. But when you're first starting out, again, you want a slow growth idea. And you're first starting out, this is going to happen naturally, but the other three things are going to be so much more important because you're always going to be building on your social media throughout your business. That's never going to stop. So here's the thing to remember. Things are going to grow as your reputation does, as naturally. Success doesn't happen overnight. There's something to be said for slow growth and patience, especially when building a business that you want to be long lasting and profit building. I know it's not as sexy as a one-hit wonder or an overnight success, but this is the type of business that's going to last for a long time. And that's what this is all about, is having something that lasts for a long time, that you can avoid burnout, and you can have fun. In fact, I had several other topics and maps I was going to share, but I realized it's getting late and I've been talking. So I hope this was super helpful. And if you ever have any questions, you can always, always, always message me. Happy Tuesday night, y'all. And I will see you next week. Next week, we are going to be talking about a fun, little bit more juicy, if you will, topic. And that is 3 ways that you can diversify your income and your profits in your photography business. So thank you all. I'll talk to you all later. Thanks.